Hi there, Christine Weber here. Welcome to my weekly live stream. I love to support mature yoga teachers as they get their wisdom out there into the world. So today I want to talk about the labels that we tend to use in the yoga world and how they may be working for you or against you. And I hope that you can sort of think this through with me. And by all means, if you're here live, please leave a comment. Okay, so a little bit about my journey. When I first started teaching yoga, it was 1995, and my first yoga teaching job was in a nursing home, believe it or not. I was trying to find a place to teach yoga. There was this big nursing home in my town. I approached them. I was like, "Do you have a space?" Because I didn't. I think there was like one yoga studio. There wasn't even one yoga studio then. There was like I didn't know where to teach. It was like sort of the thing where you would go teach at a church or a community center. And there was this big nursing home, and it was very progressive. And my mother knew some of the people that worked there, a woman who directed it. So I went into the nursing home and I talked to the director, and I was like, I think you have a lot of space here, and I'd love to use some to practice, to rent from you so I could teach a class. And she said, "Well, that's great, but would you also teach here?" And I was like, I hadn't thought about that. So I was like, sure, why not? And this was my first chance to teach chair yoga. It was my first time working with therapeutic populations. Like, forgive me, did not know what I was doing, but I learned a ton in that process. I worked there for almost 6 years, and the residents taught me so much. I got busy and I started learning so much more about therapeutic yoga at that time. I had done a training, I was really getting into it. So, and then on the side, on I think it was like Monday and Thursday nights, I had a space to teach yoga. Back in the 90s, you could just put a sign up at the A&P grocery store, and people would come to your classes because it just wasn't the business was nothing like it is today. For those of you who were around, you know what I'm talking about. If you weren't around at that time, it was very grassroots. It was very like, oh, I know this person who teaches yoga. Why don't you come to the class with me? And like, marketing was an entirely different ball of wax back then. So, at any rate, I that was my first gig. I learned a lot. I taught therapeutic populations, and from that moment, I considered myself a healthcare person. I was a wellness person, a mind body expert person. I was a integrative health practitioner. I did a bunch of other trainings. I became a massage therapist. I did a bunch of other things. I was studying homeopathy. So it was all like I was so always integrated Chinese medicine. I was always interested in integrative approaches. What happened to me in 2001 is that I moved to Asheville, North Carolina. And Asheville, sometimes called the Sedona of the South, is a very progressive and holistic minded kind of place, and has been. Now there's a lot more beer than there used to be. It used to be drum circles and crystals and weed, and now it's a lot of beer and parties. And anyway, these, these things happen. But the point being that when I moved to Asheville, I just employed the same techniques I had always used, and I had taught at a few other places when I was living in New Jersey besides the nursing home. But I would go to the grocery store and put a flyer. I'd be like, okay, folks, like ready for you to come. And I remember the first time I did that, I put some flyers in different grocery stores and a couple other like of the new age kind of places around town. And I went to teach my first class, and I was like, and nobody came. I thought, what is going on in Asheville? And then I started to dig, and I found out Asheville had already had a very vibrant yoga scene. There was a lot of cliques. There was a lot of, sort of like jockeying for student. All that was going on. I was so clueless. I had no idea. And then I started to think of myself more as a yoga teacher, fitness professional, because that's what was popular. This is in 2001, and that's what was popular. People were like, somebody was like, you need to teach flow yoga. I was like, what is flow yoga? I had no idea. So I went to some classes. I was like, well, this isn't rocket science. I can do this. And I was like, well, I guess I got to better start ramping it up. And I started teaching these more athletic classes because that's what I thought people wanted. And I started to think of myself as a fitness instructor. And well, that didn't work out very well for me. Like First of all, I wasn't really interested in that kind of yoga, and I wasn't very good at it. And, I was never gonna have that body, like that thin bo I just I that's not who I am. It's not who I am, it's not what my body likes, it's not what I wanted to teach. So I did it for a few years, like 2 years, I was trying really hard. Um, and sometimes people appreciated my classes. They'd be like, "I like your classes because, well, we don't do the hard stuff like they do in other classes, and it's not like as coordinated as dancing." People would say stuff like that to me. They'd be like, "But you have some really interesting things to say about yoga philosophy," or "But your meditations are really good." And then I was like, "Okay, what am I doing?" So it was 2003 when I decided, brakes, backpedal, let's go back to the roots of what you are and who you teach. And that's when, at that time, I had already been studying Vinny yoga. I mean, I started studying Vinny yoga in 1995. I had already been studying that stuff, but I thought nobody wants that. Um, I walked into a class. I was teaching at the YWCA, and I walked into a class, and it was raining. There were only like 5 people there, and I was like, "What do you guys feel like doing today?" And one of the students said, I wanna know what you do. I wanna do what you do at home for your practice." And I was like, "What I do?" You don't wanna know that. I remember being like, "Really?" And then some of the other students were like, "Yeah, yeah, we wanna know what you do." And I was like, okay." So I just took them through, like, my home practice, my home style of practice. And at the end, they said, "Could we do that every week?" And that was the birth of subtle yoga because I was like, oh, maybe there are people who wanted maybe I'm projecting this idea because I felt so inferior. I felt like I cannot do those kind of, foot behind your head arm balances. I will never be able to do that. It messes up my body when I try. And I like slow stuff. I like mindful practice. I like meditation. I like just like the interoceptive stuff that you develop by practicing slowly. I don't care about hypermobility. I don't really care about like I don't really care about the aesthetics of poses. I care about the functionality of poses. So that was the end. I put that stuff away and said, like, there are a gazillion people teaching like that. So if you want that fast, flowy fitness stuff, go right ahead. Like, I have lots of good people to recommend. Like, I know good people doing it. Go, enjoy. And I decided, even if it was going to be hard, and believe me, it was really hard to make it in this profession as somebody who really just like, this is what I do. This is my stake in the ground. This is how I teach. This is what I do. I was going to do it anyway. So that was 21 years ago when I made that choice, that conscious choice. Um, and a lot, and then, a few years after that, I started, well, actually, right at that time, I started training yoga teachers. But a few years after that, it was around 2008, 2009, I started training healthcare professionals. And I was like, this is where I belong. Like, I finally felt a sense of acceptance. And I changed the way that I thought of myself from a fitness yoga person to a mind body expert. People ask me what I do. I say I'm a mind body expert, or I'll say I'm an integrative health expert. Like, I don't even say yoga many times when I'm introduced to new people, and I'm not talking about in professional settings necessarily, although there as well. But I'm just like, if I meet neighbors, they're like, "What do you do?" And I say, "I'm a mind body expert," because that gives them, or I'll say an integrative health expert. Like, I use those kind of interchangeably because that gives people the idea that what I do is about health and wellness, not about hypermobile, sweaty fitness. That is not me. That's not that that's not okay. It's just not who I am. And when I took myself out of that category and kind of created or fit myself into a wellness, mind, body, integrative health category, I started to feel like myself, and I was super confident because I don't have to worry about how flexible I am or how many seconds I can hold a crow pose. I don't have to worry about any of that as a mind body professional. I don't have to worry about what my body looks like now. Of course, I stay in shape, like that's important to me. but I don't have to have a six-pack ab or worry about having that, and I never will. Like, you know, and I don't worry about it anymore because that's not who I am. That's not what I do. So when you define yourself as a yoga professional, then people know who you are and what you do, and they can make a choice whether or not it's for them. Right? When you make that choice yourself, then other people can make a choice. If you don't make the choice, if you stay in a sort of vague, cloudy, undefined yoga teacher place, or undefined, like, yoga, if you define yourself as a yoga teacher, first of all, the problem with that is people are gonna go, "You don't look like a yoga teacher," or "You don't do the hard stuff like those other yoga teachers do, so you might not be very good." Then they're making those judgments. If I just go, "I'm a mind body expert," people go, "Oh, what does that mean?" I go, "Well, I use yoga to help you to learn how to optimize your neuroendocrine immune system and to develop greater health and wellness." That there's a lot more clarity in that. Even though I'm using yoga, I use meditation, I use breathing practices, I tell them all that stuff. There's a lot more clarity in that than just tossing myself into the category of yoga teacher. And by the way, like, I love yoga. I deep, deep respect to all my teachers. This is more about clarity around what you do so that people can choose whether or not it works for them. And that kind of clarity, having that kind of clarity has done everything for my success in the yoga world. The reason I'm successful as a yoga teacher is not because of my physical capacity. It's because of my clarity around what I do and how I get that message out. And then, I'm pretty good at teaching yoga. Don't get me wrong. That part of it's really important. I read a marketing book, gosh, 15 years ago, I think. It's called The Purple Cow. It was written by one of my favorite marketing experts. His name is Seth Godin. And, I have no natural acumen for business or market. Like, I don't have any skill in that. I've developed it over the years, but I don't have any skill in it. But anyway, in this book called The Purple Cow, which I definitely recommend, and everything that Seth Godin does, he just says, like, you have to be good. You have to be really good at what you do. And that to me has always been, like, that's the heart of it, right? Like, I love yoga. I love studying it. I'm always a student first. I'm going to always study it first. But my success is not just because of that. My success as a teacher, and whatever, you want to, and I define that success as, like, helping, that I've helped a lot of people, right? So regardless of how you define it, but my success as a teacher is because, I've been clear, and I continue to clarify that message for people. Like, I think about it all the time. How can I be more clear about what I do so that people really understand and they can make a good choice? And it's not like I'm going, "Oh, you have to choose what I do because it's the best thing." Of course, I think it's the best thing. That's why I do it. Like, but it doesn't mean I dismiss everything else. There are certain things I dismiss, to be honest, but it doesn't. But not everything. Like, I have a lot of respect for people like Kino. Oh my God, like, look at her, look at what she can do. Cool. That's not what I do. You know, I have a lot of respect for whoever, Rodney Yee, whatever kind of great, and Rod Straker. They're all doing great stuff. Well, I shouldn't have mentioned Rod Stryker. I know there's a lot of controversy around him, but I'm just like talking off the top of my head about famous yoga teachers. Shiva Ray, Sean Corn. They're beautiful, fantastic. Not what I do. you know? And so when I get clear about what I do, you want to work on chronic pain in your low back? I probably can help you. You know, you're concerned about the changes that you've had in menopause, probably can give you some help with that, and support you in finding other resources. You have some interest in developing a stronger sense of identity around your spirituality. I'm pretty sure I can help you with that. The psycho emotional spiritual stuff, like, that's my forte. The nervous system stuff, I love it. Chronic pain, I very much like to work with people with chronic pain. Um, Anxiety, depression, always been at the front of what I like to work with. So I like to work with real people with real health challenges. And the clearer I get about that, the better I feel about what I do, and the more I can help more people. If you want a really hot, sweaty workout, not me. Like that's just not what I'm going to do for you. And I'm happy to, happy to send you off somewhere else. So anyway, I hope that this is helpful, especially if you have struggled as a yoga teacher with sort of defining yourself and thinking about how to situate yourself in in the groups of yogis out there and what people are teaching, yoga teachers out there and what they're teaching. And again, like I used to feel really insecure, and I used to feel like I don't think people care about what I do. I don't know that I can help. I used to have those feelings, and it was because I wasn't really clear myself about what I could do and how I could help. And now I know how I can help. So anyway, that's it's kind of. I hope it wasn't too long long-winded, but it was. I'm trying to get to that core message of define yourself, and your success will be. You will start to see more success as you do. What do you think? I'd love to hear your comments. Please leave one. And I try to be here every Wednesday around 11 o'clock Eastern. I hope to see you next week. Also, just quickly before I go, the Subtle Yoga Resilience Society, which is my monthly membership group, we will be opening the doors in June. So I'll tell you more about that as things get ready. But behind the scenes right now, we've been working really hard. We're trying to find the best inclusions, the best things to keep in that group and put in that group. Right now, there's a library of 250 plus practices. There's so many practices in there right now to choose from, plus new content every week. And so, yeah, we're getting things ready. We're gearing up for the doors opening in June. And if you want to be on the wait list, send us an email. We'll put you on the wait list. And the wait list is just for more information. It's not for a commitment. Thanks so much for being here. I'll see you next week. Lots of love. Take care.